Merry Christmas, everyone, and welcome to the Fork Drawer. My last video is about Black Friday, and I'm sure you all went out and got some really good bargains buying your loved ones some great Christmas presents. Who are you kidding? We know you bought stuff for yourself. Probably video games. It's been about a month since the release of the major titles this year, and that is a really long time in today's ADD culture. So we need to figure out a way to revive our passion for these games that have been out a whopping 30 days. So you're going to see a lot of publishers pushing their season passes, and you're going to see DLC dropping within the next month. But is that a good thing? DLC, or downloadable content, is the additional content created for a released video game over the internet by the game's official publisher, and the internet seems to be pretty upset about this. They're tired of every game having a season pass or DLC of some sort somehow shoehorned in. One of the most common complaints I come across is that DLC is making video games too expensive. If you spend $60, then you're getting an unfinished product. If you really want the full experience, you got to get the season pass, so that adds on another 40 or 50 bucks. So now you're spending over $100 for a video game, and that's just too much. Well, that logic is like saying, well, Rock Band is just too darn expensive. It cost over $10,000. $10,000 for a Rock Band? Well, yeah, you got to get the DLC. You don't have to get every single song to enjoy Rock Band. You don't have to get every piece of DLC that comes out for every game to get a proper full experience of that game. And to act as if video games are more expensive today is misleading. Games are cheaper today than they have ever been. I went to usinflationcalculator.com and plugged in a few numbers. The $50 price tag on an NES game from 1986 would be $108 in today's money. In 1996, N64 games were 70 bucks. Today, that'd be over 105. The PS2 games in 2000 were $50, and today that's around 68 bucks. And then the Xbox 360 games at launch in 2005 cost $60, just like they do today. But with the power of inflation, that would be $72.91. But even though they're cheaper for us to buy, they are more expensive to make. Grand Theft Auto 4 was $100 million to develop, while Grand Theft Auto 5 was $265 million. At the time of its release, it was the second most expensive piece of entertainment ever created. And that's out of movies, games, TV shows, everything. And it makes sense. The consoles we have today, the computers we have today, the specs are a lot higher than they used to be, so our standards for video games have gone way up. The world's got to be a lot bigger, they got to be full of more things to do, the resolution has to be higher, so therefore the textures have to be more detailed. You have to be able to see the little wrinkles by everybody's eye whenever they're telling a lie. Like, games are just doing incredible things. Of course they're going to cost more to make. And since we're still only paying $60 per game, they got to figure out how to make a profit somewhere. Of course, they're trying to sell more copies, but not everybody can make $1 billion in 3 days like Rockstar. Some of the other complaints that I come across often are, if the content was already created before the game was released, then it should just be part of the game. And if it's already on the disc, that's just the worst thing since Watergate. My opinion, why does it matter when the content was created? If I'm buying a map pack for Call of Duty, why should I care whether the maps were designed from the beginning of the development cycle alongside the game, or if it was an afterthought? I'm spending the same amount of money for the same maps to be released at the same scheduled date. I don't care when it was made. Now, content that's already on the disc, I can see why people would be upset by that. You bought the disc, you own everything on it, but now they're telling you you have to give them $5 extra just so you can unlock more of the information on the disc you already paid for and have. I can see why that's a little shady. I can see why people would be upset by that. Me personally, I still don't care because it's just a matter of distribution. If they decided not to put it on the disc and send it over the airwaves through the webs and all that good stuff, then that's just using bandwidth and data, and I gotta wait for it to download. And I'm still spending the same amount of money on the same content just because they didn't put it on the disc. If they put it on the disc, it's going to make it easier for some people with bad internet. I'm not saying all DLC is good, but what it should really boil down to is, does the existence of this DLC negatively impact your experience with the original game? If you are loving a game, why should it matter if you find out later that there is a season pass? I've split up the different types of DLC into 3 categories, each with their own potential problems on how they could diminish the value of the original content. We have expansion pack DLC, which is going to be like map packs and story modes. Cosmetic Microtransactions, which is just stuff that affect only the way something looks. And your Pay2win Dlc, which is going to be stuff that give you an advantage over the game in some way. So starting off with the expansion packs, what you really need to ask yourself is, did the original game have enough content? If I'm playing Uncharted 4 this March and I get right to the climax where everything's about to happen and go crazy, and I get a little message that says, please pay $5 to experience the rest of this story, I'm going to be really mad because I paid $60 and I want a full game. The amount of content can be measured in a video game in several different ways. It could be how long it takes to beat the story, how big the world is, how many maps the online has, or in a lot of cases, a combination of all these and other factors. So I found a website called howlongtobeat.com, and basically they just survey a bunch of people, find out how long it takes them to beat various games on average. And so let's just take a look at how some of these franchises are stacking up now that we have DLC as such a big part of our video game culture. Grand Theft Auto 3, no DLC whatsoever, of course, it was for the PS2, took people on average 17 hours and 35 minutes to beat. Grand Theft Auto 4 had 2 major expansions in the way of new stories, and it was 28 hours and 19 minutes. Almost 11 hours longer to beat the game, even though it had the DLC, and it was a much bigger world. And then you got Grand Theft Auto 5, which was raised the bar even a little bit more at 31 hours and 25 minutes, and the world here is so much bigger, and you can see this map right here. Grand Theft Auto 4's map is the part of the map at the bottom of the screen that is black. Grand Theft Auto 5's map is massive in comparison. And then, of course, Grand Theft Auto 5 has a huge component that's online, which provides a ton more hours of content there. All right, so let's look over at Call of Duty. The story mode for Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare was around 6 hours and 43 minutes. And Black Ops 3, the most recent COD in the series, was 8 hours and 39 minutes. So about 2 hours more in the story, but nobody plays the story in Call of Duty. Let's check the online. The average number of Call of Duty maps across all online Call of Duty games is 14.6. The most current Call of Duty, Black Ops 3, has 14 maps. Not even a full map difference. So the trend seems to be that the amount of content in at least these two franchises is not going down due to the existence of DLC. Of course, you're going to have to do this on a game-by-game basis, but so far, I'm seeing games are providing just as much content as they ever have. The only way that the map packs can negatively impact the experience of the original game in Call of Duty is through fragmentation of the player base. I made an entire video on that. Basically, it's whenever you're splitting up the player base into separate areas, so it makes it harder for them to find lobbies and matchmaking. I made a whole separate video just about that and how Call of Duty could fix it if they wanted to. Go check that out. I'll put the link in the description below. But anyway, moving right along, we're going to talk about our cosmetic microtransactions. Microtransactions seems to be the dirtiest word in video game circles. If your game has microtransactions in it, you're going to tick people off. My opinion is I could take it or leave it. It doesn't really affect me as long as it doesn't affect the gameplay. Now, what I'm talking about is cosmetic stuff, things that just affect the appearance. Like in Call of Duty Ghosts, you could buy a wolf that took the place of your attack dog. It didn't change the attack dog. It still killed the same amount of people. It still was earned the same way. Nothing changed except for the way it looks. We're also talking about things that change the way, like camouflages on your gun or on your character. And this is Call of Duty, for example. Basically things that just look different to people but don't affect gameplay. And the only way that it could really negatively impact the game if you don't buy it is if they constantly try to advertise it to you and you have to close out windows in between every matches because it pops up and says, well, check out our new microtransactions. That could be annoying. Or if you have like an inventory and you have to look through dozens and dozens of things that you don't own to get to the stuff you do own, that would be annoying as well. So as long as that stuff isn't happening, the fact that it's there doesn't hurt anything. You don't pay for it, who cares? And lastly, we have Pay2win Dlc. And Pay2win Dlc is almost always bad. It almost always negatively impacts the core game. And you see it manifest in different ways. One common place to see Pay2win Dlc is in mobile free-to-play games. Games like Candy Crush Saga. And the way that this negatively impacts Candy Crush Saga, because of course it's free anyway, it actually sabotages your game. These games are rigged to put you in a situation where you're playing a puzzle game. You're waiting for the next random chance thing to happen so that you can beat this puzzle, beat this level, and the game will make sure that that doesn't happen. It will keep the one piece you need away from you until you spend money on these extra lives. It convinces you that, well, if you just had one more turn, you would have made it. So why don't you spend 99 cents on 5 lives? And a lot of people do it. Candy Crush actually, like I said, it's a free game, but they still somehow make $1 million a day. And it's through manipulation and, it's deceptive. I would say that it should be illegal, honestly. But we don't play those crappy mobile games. We're real gamers. So a lot of times you see pay-to-win DLC in multiplayer games, and you might see it in a racing game where you can buy a car that's faster than most of the other cars in the game, or a fighting game where you can buy a character for a few dollars that's just better than all the base characters that's already in the game. So whenever you're starting to play a Super Smash Bros. And you didn't spend money on it because you're not a wuss, and you go up against some 12-year-old who's got his mom's credit card already on the Wii, then you might be at a disadvantage against this guy, even though you might be better than them. In first-person shooters, you could possibly buy a gun that's better than everybody else's guns, and if you don't want to spend that money, then you're just at a disadvantage no matter how much better you are. Advanced Warfare kind of got into trouble with this with their advanced supply drops. We all know that the whole system with weapon variants and unlocking them randomly was a horrible system in the first place. But whenever they introduced advanced supply drops, one of the best guns in the game, the Obsidian Steed, could give you a distinct advantage over somebody else of equal or even a little bit better skill than you. And with the introduction of advanced supply drops, you could actually buy more odds at getting this gun. Every advanced supply drop had a rare weapon in it, so you buy enough of them, chances are you're going to get it. You spend enough money, you're going to get the Obsidian Steed, whereas I, who didn't buy a single one, never unlocked it. And this isn't going to make a bad player good, but it will give you the advantage in individual gunfights. And if you win enough individual gunfights, you're going to get better stats. And it's just not fair. Like I said, pay-to-win DLC in any case is bad for gaming. So in summary, what difference does it make how much content they stack on top of it if you can enjoy the game without having to buy any of it? Anyway, if you have any disagreements or you want to discuss this further in the comment section below, I'll meet you down there. Otherwise, make sure to like and subscribe. And until next time, may the fork be with you.